colony sim, tower builder, turn-based tactics, crafting and resource management. Mind over Magic has it all. But does it do any of it well? Watch on and find out.
My name is Thoraxe, and this is Strategy for Busy People. If you've got a few minutes, I'll tell you what to play.
Here on Strategy for Busy People, I usually gravitate towards builders of a kind, so one that's combined with a colony simulator and all the other stuff seemed appealing. Mind Over Magic by Sparky Pants looked like it had a lot of the things that I wanted in a game, so I put over 22 hours into figuring out if they were actually there. With a unique graphical style reminiscent of Tim Burton movies, but with a game that plays like a strange cross between Oxygen Not Included and a turn-based tactical battle simulator, there is quite a lot going on. At its core, Mind Over Magic is about you building a magic school, training your students, and fighting enemies in the basement. While that sounds simple in theory, in practice it's quite a unique challenge. With respect to the building a magic school part, there are quite a lot of interesting mechanics that I enjoyed. Firstly, the starting area on which you can build is limited, so you have to go vertical to achieve your lofty construction goals. Yes, I made a building pun about a builder game. Anyway, while the limited area is a mechanic, it's not the most interesting mechanic by itself. As you construct rooms, you can set specific room type goals for them, and those room types will provide buffs to certain activities. Like many games, Mind Over Magic has a tech tree and research you must perform to unlock its many leaves. Constructing a mage's study for your researcher will grant them a research speed bonus, but what exactly goes into constructing such a thing? Well, for one, the shape of a room may be important to the goal. Having different wall heights, having only one entrance, not having negative luxury items, not being next to other noisy rooms, and many other factors may need to be considered when trying to achieve a room goal. Fortunately for you, the devs are kind, and deconstructing your school gives back 100% of the resources used for construction. With respect to the actual construction, this, unsurprisingly, takes resources. Those resources are found either in the outdoor areas next to your school or underground, or can be crafted by feeding some things to magical creatures. This takes the form of a bit of supply chain management, which is also something I tend to enjoy. To add to the supply chain management, crafting items in the game also requires resources, some of which must be produced from source materials. Creating certain potions requires ectoplasm, but producing ectoplasm requires having this jelly-looking creature in a planter that you feed small animal corpses to. While the little rats running around can be hunted for corpses, you eventually get the ability to raise rats like a rat rancher. So to a degree, this game is also a farming simulator? As many of these starting resources come from the outdoors, you also have to contend with this evil fog that wants to encroach on your school's grounds. So you're constantly having to send your people to perform fog-repelling rituals to push it back, lest you lose the ability to reach some of your resources. I mentioned that you have to train your students. This takes the form of, unsurprisingly, building classrooms where your staff can act as teachers. There are many different magic types in this game, such as water, air, fire, lightning, etc. Each magic type requires a specific wand, and then you can summon a student. But there are two types of students, regular and so-called gifted students. As you might expect, gifted students start with more bonuses and can ultimately be trained into more powerful magicians. On top of just hiring students of different magic types, there are also different character races which each have their own positive and negative aspects to them. As an example, vivified characters can eat the crappiest food without suffering ill effects, and they have massive hit points, but there is a specific event that happens from time to time that prevents vivified characters from using any offensive spells in combat. This will make sense in a moment. Balancing hiring staff versus continuing to train magicians presents an interesting logistical challenge because students cannot perform that many tasks around the school other than cleaning or tending plants. But there are many things that need to be done, such as cooking meals, or, after you've researched it, constructing little magic creatures to perform chores like tending plants. But these activities require higher level skills of staff. Planning around hiring and firing staff versus training students creates quite an interesting decision matrix. Then we get to combat. While exploring the dungeon is required to get access to certain equipment, like the device that allows you to give more powerful wands to your magicians, there are also other combat encounters besides just the dungeons. Fighting encounters are turn-based tactical affairs, and there are 4 slots that you can put mages into. The combat also has quite an interesting decision matrix. Enemies may be strong or weak to certain magic types. Being in the front or back row may impact whether or not your character can be attacked, or what enemies your characters can attack. Moving your characters around the combat field, casting both offensive and defensive spells, and even spells that move enemies around, all combine to make combat quite an interesting affair. But that's not all. Certain combat encounters involve buffs or penalties in specific spots on the map. In one dungeon encounter, there was a lava spot on my side which caused the character in it to take damage every round. This made for a really interesting situation because I had to keep swapping my tank-like Vivified into that spot in order to succeed at this combat encounter, as lesser constituted mages would die quickly if they stayed in that spot for long. Running your school takes a lot of coordination, and much like Oxygen Not Included, which I also reviewed, managing the schedules of your people can get really interesting. And not just managing their schedules, but in some cases, managing which equipment your employees can or cannot use to ensure that certain conditions are met. As an example, there are certain activities that students can perform to get extra experience points called trials, which might require them to eat alone or do other specific activities. Your magicians develop proclivities like wanting to eat or sleep in the same room as their friends. Managing who can access what beds, dining areas, and other resources is all part of the fun.
Before I give my final verdict, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to share it with your friends. Agree with me, disagree with me, or want to see other content? Let me know in the comments below. Want to try this game yourself? Check out my humble affiliate link below. And if you want to support me in making more of these videos, become a patron on Patreon. Your support really makes a difference. The final verdict.
In 22 hours of play, I really didn't even get that deep into the game. The pace can be as slow as you want, with many levers to control the difficulty. I only stopped playing because I had reached a point where I wished I had constructed my school very differently. In spite of it being free to rebuild, it does take time, and I didn't want to start over again for the 4th or 5th time, but I still sort of actually did want to start over again. I learned something every time I restarted. On my trademark 3-point score scale of avoid, meh, and I forgot to eat, I made lots of gutberry stew, and my wolfkin ate lots of raw meat. I almost missed some of my own meals and bedtime because I found this game so interesting and enjoyable to play. Alas, in the end, the real world beckoned, and as much as I wanted to keep training my little apprentices, I had to go make a real stew. Unfortunately for me, I didn't have magic creatures to make it without my involvement. Although we're probably not that far from an AI that will help the stew cook itself.